All right, so this demo goes over how to get your image to your matrix. So once you have settled on your portrait, what's going to be black, what's going to be white, and what's going to be gray, you're going to go ahead and cut it out so that it's the exact same size or pretty close to your matrix. So this is just a 6x8 piece of linoleum. Then you're going to take some masking tape or whatever tape you have on hand, and you just want enough to tape the top of the portrait. So I'm going to take this and just tape it across the top. You want enough tape that it's not going to let your picture move around. So that's not going to let me really wiggle it much. You don't really need to tape the sides or the bottom as long as you have enough tape across the top. The other thing you're going to need is what's called either transfer or carbon paper. Looks like this, so it has one really dark side and one lighter side. If I drag my finger across this top side, it's going to pull off carbon. So that's what we're going to use to transfer our image. So you're going to flip your picture up, and this is the important part. It goes dark side down. So make sure that the carbon side is facing the linoleum, okay? Once you have put your carbon paper in there, you can just go through and trace your lines. So I'm going to go through and trace all of my major line work, the outlines, any detail you feel like is necessary. What I'm not going to trace is every single hatching line that I've made. Instead, I'm going to do an outline around that so that when I go to cover it in Sharpie, I know that that's where my shadows go. If you wanted to, you could trace every single hatching mark. It's just a little bit more time intensive because you're still going to have to go over it in Sharpie on the matrix. So when you were tracing this, what that does is it takes the carbon from the carbon paper and pushes it onto the matrix, right? So this stuff is basically like pencil. It can smudge, it can erase if you mess up. But once I've done that, I'm gonna go through with Sharpie now and go over my lines one more time. And this is where I meant, now I know this is where hatching is supposed to go. So I'm gonna add that hatching in there. And I leave my picture taped onto the matrix until I'm completely done. Typically, I would just trace everything and then go over everything with Sharpie at once. I'm just trying to show you the process in a little bit quicker of a way. But I can always flip it down and see, okay, there needs to be some hatching right here. There needs to be hatching here. So pretty quickly, you can go from having your picture on the matrix in Sharpie. And then when I go to carve this, I know to carve around my Sharpie lines. So to carve the yellow and leave the black. The last thing I want to add also is that this transfer paper can be used over and over again. So even though you can see where it's taken out some of the carbon, I could reuse this for several projects. So hang on to that, don't throw it away because you can reuse it later on.